She kicked me out of the wedding with a text and thought she'd won. I just smiled, packed my bag, and walked out. She had no idea what she'd just started. The text arrived at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. While I was standing at the bathroom counter in my underwear with a curling iron in one hand and a mascara wand in the other, getting ready for my sister-in-law's rehearsal dinner, I read it once, then twice, then a third time, because the first 2 times my brain simply refused to process it as real. Dear, unfortunately there's not enough room at the restaurant. No need to come from the bride's side, just groom's family. Hope you understand. The exclamation point was a particularly nice touch. My mother-in-law, Carol Whitmore, was uninviting me from Emily's wedding with a text message. Not a phone call, not a conversation. A text with a cheerful little exclamation point at the end, as if she were canceling a lunch reservation rather than reclassifying me. The woman who had spent 4 months helping plan this wedding, who had sat through cake tastings and venue tours and dress fittings, from family to unnecessary guest. I set the curling iron down on the counter very carefully. What Carol did not know, what she could not have known, because she had never once considered that I might be paying attention, was that I had been to Bella Vista 2 weeks earlier to drop off the wedding gift. The manager, a warm woman named Sophia, had walked me through the private banquet room with the pride of someone showing off a space they'd spent weeks preparing. We can seat up to 120 comfortably, she'd said. They've confirmed 85 guests. 43 on the bride's side, 42 on the groom's, 43 on the bride's side. I had seen the seating chart. I was at table 4 between Alex and his cousin Jennifer. There were 40 empty seats. I put the mascara wand down next to the curling iron. I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, half-done hair, one eye finished, the text still glowing on my phone screen, and I felt something shift inside me. Not the hot surge of anger I might have expected. Something quieter and more permanent. Clarity. I typed back, "Oh, that's disappointing, but I understand. Hope it's a beautiful day." Carol's response was almost immediate and almost gleeful. "So sweet of you to understand. We'll send pictures." I set the phone face down on the counter. Then I walked to the bedroom, pulled my suitcase from under the bed, and started packing. To understand why a text about a wedding seating chart sent me straight to a suitcase, I need to take you back 3 months. I am Sarah Patterson. Sarah Whitmore now, technically, though I've been reconsidering that, and I am 31 years old. I work as a senior project manager at a mid-sized tech firm, making $87,000 a year. I have a good life, a small team I'm proud of, and an apartment in the Riverside district that I own outright, purchased 6 years ago with the $180,000 my grandmother left me when she died. My grandmother, Eleanor Patterson, was a high school principal for 32 years. She saved every penny she made and invested carefully and died with the particular satisfaction of a woman who had built something real. She left the money to me with one instruction, delivered in a letter she'd written herself in her careful, slanted handwriting. "Buy something that's yours, Sarah. Something no one can take from you." So I bought the apartment. No mortgage, no debt, the title in my name alone. Alex and I discussed it before we got married. He was supportive, even proud. "That's incredible," he said, holding my hands across the table at our favorite Italian restaurant. My mom always said a woman should have her own security. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Alex Whitmore was 34, a regional sales director making $95,000 a year with student loans and a car payment. We split expenses evenly. We made decisions together. It felt like a real partnership. His family lived 20 minutes away. Carol, his father Robert, and his younger sister Emily. Robert had been in a serious car accident when Alex was 12 and lived with chronic pain. Carol had worked 2 jobs for a decade to keep the family going. She never let anyone forget it. It was her weapon, her shield, her justification for every overreach. After everything I sacrificed for this family, Carol was a forceful woman who wore pastel cardigans and spoke in a syrupy voice that always carried an undercurrent of judgment. She rearranged my kitchen cabinets when she visited, calling it efficiency. She asked about my career choices with phrases like, "Well, I suppose some women prefer work to family," always delivered with a smile that stopped precisely at her cheekbones. I had learned to tolerate her. Smile, nod, redirect. It was easier than fighting. But 3 months before the wedding, the questions started. Sunday dinner at Carol's house, pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans cooked soft, Robert in his recliner, Emily and her fiancé David discussing honeymoon destinations, Alex helping his mother in the kitchen while I set the table. Carol emerged carrying the gravy boat and said in her brightest voice, "Sarah, dear, Alex mentioned you own your apartment outright. No mortgage. That must be such a relief." "It is. My grandmother made it possible. And it's just in your name, not joint." Something in her tone made me pause, the way a bird freezes when it senses something it can't see yet. "Yes, I bought it before we were married." She set the gravy boat down with a soft clink. "You know, dear, when you're married, it's usually better to have things jointly. For legal reasons, for protection. What if something happened to you? Alex would have such a complicated time with inheritance and probate. Wouldn't it be simpler to just add his name to the deed?" I felt a small, cold flutter, like a moth trapped against glass. "We've talked about it. We're happy with how things are." Of course, of course." She patted my shoulder, her hand lingering a beat too long. "I just worry. A mother worries." Alex walked in with the roast platter. The conversation shifted, but the question had planted itself. The following week, Carol called me at work. She never called me at work. She spent 4 minutes explaining that she'd found old property deeds while cleaning and had been thinking about document security. And did I keep my deeds somewhere safe safe because a filing cabinet really wasn't secure, and she had space in her safety deposit box at First National if I ever wanted her to hold it for safekeeping. Every nerve in my body went alert. "That's kind," I said carefully. "I'm fine where I am." That night, I mentioned it to Alex. He was scrolling through his phone, barely tracking. "She's just being paranoid. You know how she is about paperwork. She wants to hold my property deed in her safety deposit box. She probably thinks she's helping." I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, running it back. The question about the title, the call about the deed, the hand on the shoulder that lasted a beat too long. I told myself I was reading too much into it. I was wrong. 2 weeks before the wedding, I came home from a work conference to find Carol sitting on my couch, flipping through a magazine as if she lived there. "Alex gave me a key months ago," she said serenely, "for emergencies." I swallowed everything I wanted to say, took the bridal shower list she'd brought, and waited until she left to text Alex. "Your mother has a key to our apartment for emergencies. Is that a problem?" I typed yes. Deleted it. Typed we should have discussed it first. Sent that instead. Sorry, didn't think it was a big deal. The next morning, I called a locksmith and told Alex I'd lost my keys. He believed me, or pretended to. 1 week before the wedding, I stopped by Bella Vista to drop off the crystal wine glasses I'd bought for Emily. Sophia walked me through the banquet room, airy, elegant, lined with round tables draped in ivory linen. "How many are coming to the Whitmore wedding?" I asked. 85 confirmed, 43 on the bride's side, 42 on the groom's. Plenty of space. We have room for 120. I smiled and made a note of it in the quiet part of my brain where I'd been filing things for 3 months. 40 empty seats. 3 days later came Carol's text. I packed with the focused efficiency of someone whose hands are shaking, but whose mind has gone very, very still. Jeans, sweaters, toiletries, my laptop, my jewelry box, my grandmother's photo album, my passport, my birth certificate, the deed to my apartment in its folder, tucked between 2 sweaters. Everything that was irreplaceably mine. Alex came home 40 minutes later, calling out cheerfully from the hallway. "Hey babe, we need to leave in 30 for the rehearsal dinner." He walked into the bedroom and stopped, stared at the suitcase on the bed, half-zipped, the closet standing open. "What? Where are you going?" "Your mother uninvited me from the wedding," I said. "Said there wasn't enough room." He blinked. The calculation behind his eyes was fast and subtle, but I'd had 5 years to learn to read it. "That must be a misunderstanding. I'll talk to her. Just unpack, come to dinner, we'll sort this out." "There are 40 empty seats, Alex. I counted with Sophia 2 weeks ago." Silence. His mouth opened, closed. "I read your emails," I said. The grocery bags dropped from his hands. An apple rolled under the bed. "You what?" "Yours, your mother's, and Mitchell Warren's. The whole chain. The property transfer discussion, the marital asset reclassification, the post-nuptial agreement template, the plan to wait until after the wedding when I'd be in a good mood." His face went the color of old chalk. "Sarah, I can explain." "I know you can. I'm not interested." I zipped the suitcase. "Where are you going?" "My parents' lake house." He moved to block the doorway, not threateningly, more desperately, the way people block exits when they know the conversation is slipping away from them. "Sarah, please, I love you. I made a mistake. Just don't leave like this." I looked at him for a long moment. This man I had married, this man I had trusted with everything I had. I felt nothing except a vast, still emptiness, the particular silence that comes after something has been decided. "Move, Alex. Sarah, move. Or I'll call for help and tell them you're preventing me from leaving my own apartment." He moved. I loaded the suitcase into my car and drove north without looking back. My parents' lake house sat 2 hours north in the pine forest along Crescent Lake, a place I'd been going since I was 7, where the dock creaked in a specific rhythm and the water smelled like cold and cedar and safety. My mother answered the door in her gardening clothes, soil on her knees, and her face moved through surprise and alarm in the space of about 2 seconds. "Sarah, sweetheart, what happened?" I told them everything. The emails, the deed, Mitchell Warren, the family's property attorney, the plan to emotionally pressure me into adding Alex's name to the title, the post-nuptial template Carol had sent, the decision to exclude me from the wedding as what Carol had literally called a message. My father, Thomas Patterson, retired family law attorney, 30 years of practice, listened with the stillness of a man who has learned to absorb information before reacting. His expression darkened steadily and methodically, like weather moving in. My mother held my hand with the fierce, anchoring grip she'd used when I was small and frightened. When I finished, my father said, "First thing Monday, we're calling Diana." Diana Chen had been my father's colleague for 15 years before she built her own practice. She was one of the most respected divorce attorneys in the state. Small, precise, with the calm authority of someone who has spent 2 decades watching people underestimate her and has found the whole thing mildly amusing. "You need to understand your options," my father said, "even if you're not ready to decide anything yet." "I don't know what I want," I said, which was true. "You don't have to know tonight. Tonight, you just breathe." We sat on the dock until dark, watching the last light drain out of the water. My phone buzzed steadily. Alex, Carol, eventually Emily, and I left it face down on the dock boards and let the lake do what lakes do, which is exist calmly and completely, regardless of what humans are doing to each other nearby. I woke at 6:47 a.m. to 17 missed calls. I sat up in the pine-scented guest room and scrolled through them with the slow dread of someone who already knows the contents of a letter before opening it. Emily, 11:23 p.m. "Sarah, what did you do? Mom is hysterical. Alex is acting strange. The wedding is in 4 hours and everything everything is falling apart. Alex, 12:08 a.m. Sarah, please answer. Mom called Mitchell, and now there's some kind of issue with the venue, and she's completely losing it. I need you to come back. Carol, 12:31 a.m. You selfish, ungrateful girl. You have ruined Emily's wedding. I hope you are proud of yourself. Emily, 6:15 a.m. Sarah, is it true? Did you threaten to sue Mom? The restaurant is saying there's a dispute over the payment and they might not host the event. Please, it's my wedding day. I stared at that last one. Then I called Emily back. She answered on the first ring, crying. The particular crying of someone who has been doing it for several hours and has reached the ugly, exhausted stage beyond tears. Sarah, did you call a lawyer and tell them to threaten the restaurant? Mom says you're trying to take back the money she paid for the venue because it came from a joint account. I was quiet for a moment, processing. Emily, I haven't contacted anyone. I've been at my parents' lake house since yesterday afternoon. I haven't made a single call about the wedding or the venue or any money. Then why is the restaurant saying there's a legal dispute? The shape of it became clear. Carol, panicked after I left, had called Mitchell Warren in the middle of the night, presumably demanding he do something, take some action, apply some pressure. And Mitchell, either out of exasperation or a catastrophic misreading of his own authority, had called Bella Vista and suggested there was a dispute over the payment Carol had made on a joint credit card she shared with Robert, implying I might have a claim to those funds. It was legally nonsensical, but restaurant managers aren't lawyers, and nobody wants to be standing in the middle of a family legal dispute when the tablecloths are already pressed. I'm going to fix this, I told Emily. Give me 10 minutes. Your wedding is happening. I called Sophia at Bella Vista at 7:03 a.m. Sophia, this is Sarah Whitmore. I was in a few weeks ago with the wine glasses. I understand you received a call from a Mitchell Warren last night about a payment dispute. Yes, and I have to say, Mrs. Whitmore, I'm very uncomfortable with— There is no dispute, I said clearly. Mitchell Warren had absolutely no authority to contact you on my behalf. I have no claim to the wedding payment and no interest in making one. The event should proceed exactly as planned. I'm sorry you were put in this position. She exhaled audibly. That's a tremendous relief. We'll proceed as normal. Thank you, Sophia. Then I called Mitchell Warren. He answered on the second ring with the slightly defensive tone of a man who has spent the night knowing a phone call was coming. Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Warren, I said. I understand you contacted Bella Vista this morning and represented yourself as acting on my behalf regarding a payment dispute. I was acting on instructions from Carol Whitmore. Carol Whitmore is not your client. I am not your client. You had no authority to make that call, and you caused significant distress to a venue that had done nothing wrong on what is supposed to be a young woman's wedding day. I paused. I'm going to be very clear. If you ever contact anyone on my behalf or on Carol's behalf regarding my property or finances, I will file a formal complaint with the state bar. I have the email chain, Mr. Warren, all of it, including your own advice telling Carol to drop this because she had no legal mechanism to proceed. You knew exactly what this family was attempting, and you participated in it anyway. A long silence. Understood, he said quietly. I hung up and called Emily back. It's fixed. The venue confirmed. Your wedding is on. She made a sound I can only describe as a person who has been holding something very heavy, suddenly being allowed to put it down. Thank you, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it. Go get married, I said. Be happy. None of this is your fault. Then I called Carol. She answered on the first ring, her voice sharp and already building toward accusation. Sarah, how dare you— Stop, I said. Listen. Something in my voice stopped her. You tried to sabotage your own daughter's wedding to punish me for leaving. You sent a lawyer with no authority to threaten a venue that had nothing to do with any of this. You lied to Emily and let her think I was the one causing chaos on her wedding morning. And you did all of this, I said, because I wouldn't let you take something that isn't yours. I was protecting Alex. Your son is a 34-year-old man who helped you scheme to pressure his wife into signing over property she bought before she ever met him. That's not something that needs protecting. That's something that needs examining. She inhaled sharply. Here's what's going to happen, Carol. You're going to go to that wedding, smile, and be the mother of the groom. You're going to leave me alone permanently. And you're never going to mention my apartment, my finances, or my property again. Because if you do, I will share every email in that chain with every person in your social circle. I have them all. Every word. Silence. Tell Alex that when he gets home tonight, his things will be packed. He can arrange collection through my father's office. You're ending your marriage over this? Her voice had lost its authority. What was underneath it was smaller. I'm ending my marriage because your son chose you over me, over honesty, over 5 years of everything I gave him. He had 100 chances to be my partner, and he used every one of them to be your accomplice instead. I paused. Goodbye, Carol. I hung up and sat for a moment in the pine-scented quiet of the guest room. Then I got up, got dressed, and went downstairs where my mother was making coffee, and my father was already on the phone with Diana Chen. Diana joined us by video call at 9:30 a.m. Composed, efficient, with reading glasses she kept putting on and taking off as she reviewed the documentation I'd emailed her the night before. This is one of the cleaner cases I've seen, she said. The apartment is unambiguously separate property. No mortgage, title in your name alone, purchased 3 years before the marriage. Alex has no claim. The renovation contributions he made are at best reimbursable expenses, and even that's a reach given that he's been living rent-free for 5 years. Will he contest the divorce? He might threaten to. Men in his position often do. She looked at me over her reading glasses. promises. But the email chain changes his calculation significantly. Any attorney worth their fee will tell him that going to court with this paper trail would be damaging and expensive and would end exactly the same way. What do I do now? You enjoy your weekend. Monday we file. Irreconcilable differences, no fault, but we include a letter that makes the situation abundantly clear. If he signs promptly and cooperatively, we're done in 90 days. If he doesn't, she smiled briefly. The emails become Exhibit A. My father reached over and squeezed my hand. That afternoon, while Emily got married in a ceremony I watched through a live stream a friend of hers sent me without Carol's knowledge, I sat on the dock with my mother and a glass of lemonade and let the afternoon do what it wanted with me. The ceremony was genuinely beautiful. Emily cried happy tears. David looked like a man who couldn't believe his luck. The flowers were exactly right. I felt glad for her and sad for what had surrounded it, and underneath both of those things, something that surprised me with its steadiness, relief. Alex showed up at the lake house Monday morning. I watched from the upstairs window as his car pulled into the gravel drive. He looked haggard, unshaven, wearing the same shirt from 2 days ago. My father answered the door. Alex, you're not welcome here. I need 5 minutes with Sarah, please. I came out onto the porch then, arms crossed. What followed was a conversation I had already had in my head 100 times over the weekend. He loved me. He'd made a mistake. He would cut off his mother completely if that's what it took. 7 years together, everything we'd built. I let him say all of it. I owed him that much. Then I said, you chose your mother over me every single time she asked you to. Every overreach I told you about, every boundary she crossed, you defended her and made me feel unreasonable. And when she came up with a plan to take control of my home, you helped her. You helped her, Alex. I wasn't trying to take anything. Then explain the emails. He couldn't. Sign the papers. I said, let us both move on. He left 20 minutes later. He signed 4 weeks after that, without contest, on the advice of his own attorney, who had, I imagine, explained to him very clearly what going to court with that email chain would accomplish. It has been 18 months. I am sitting on my balcony right now, in the early spring morning, with coffee and the particular silence of a city not quite awake yet. The apartment is still mine. Of course it is. It was always going to be mine. I was promoted to senior director 6 months ago. I took my team to 12 people, and I took myself to Italy, then Greece, then Iceland in November. Places my grandmother had pinned to a map on her office wall. Places she talked about visiting and never did. I went for both of us. Diana Chen sent me a handwritten note when the divorce was finalized. Straightforward case, exceptional client. Good luck, Sarah. I framed it. It's in the hallway next to my grandmother's photo. I am seeing someone. His name is Marcus. He teaches 8th grade history. And when I told him this whole story over dinner on our 3rd date, he sat quietly for a moment and then said, who looks at someone they love and sees a transaction? I didn't have a good answer. I'm not sure there is one. Carol still sends a Christmas card. I throw them away unopened, but I notice I'm doing it with less heat each year. Emily had a baby girl last month. I sent a gift card and a little note. We're not close, but we're not enemies. Just 2 people connected by something that no longer connects us. My grandmother's photo sits on the mantle next to the deed. Every time I walk past it, I hear her voice in that careful, slanted handwriting of hers. The instruction she left for me, not just in a letter, but in the apartment itself, in the paid-off title. In every morning, I wake up in a space that is completely, unambiguously, irreversibly mine. Something no one can take from you. She was right. They tried, they really did, and they failed. Not because I was lucky, or because the law saved me, or because someone came to my rescue. They failed because my grandmother was a woman who understood that the most radical thing you can give the people you love is security that doesn't depend on anyone else's goodwill. She gave that to me, and I kept it. The sun is up now over the rooftops, painting everything gold. I take a sip of coffee. I'm exactly where I am supposed to be.